Chairman, on the first day when the National Anthem Bill's second reading was resumed, I already pressed the button. But then you imposed a time limit for the stage. I did not have the opportunity to speak. I could only speak now. Let me say at the outset that we should, of course, respect the national anthem and respect our country. This point is clear. The problem is, for the bill laid into the Council, we need to consider whether there is undue restriction on our citizens' rights and freedom, and whether there is any ambiguity in the definition of some terms, and whether these uncertainties would allow abuse of power by the law enforcement agencies. We have 21 amendments moved by members altogether, trying to improve the bill itself. We understand that the National Anthem Bill is quite similar to the National Anthem Law. The National Anthem Law has 16 clauses. We have 14 clauses and 3 schedules. According to the legislative brief provided by the administration at the outset, it is said that having regard to the common law legal system and the actual circumstances in Hong Kong, National Anthem Law should be introduced into Hong Kong by local legislation instead of promulgation, and that accounts for what we are going through. At this moment, we have the NPC circumventing the local legislation procedures and enacting national security law. I would say that the enactment of the national anthem law in Hong Kong is more cautious and crucial. I'd like to point out the errors made by Dr. Priscilla Leung last week in her speech. Mr. Michael Look also made the same mistake. According to Priscilla Leung, the national anthem law is implemented because of lack of respect of Hong Kong people for the national anthem. I don't think she's done her homework. The NPCSC enacted the national anthem law because some PRC residents are not familiar with the national anthem. According to media reports, since 2008, a member of the state organ have been proposing the enactment of national anthem law for the reason that the national anthem sometimes was not sung correctly. In fact, in a PRC examination, only 1/3 of students could recite the lyrics of the national anthem. And then, in another exam, some students answered that the songwriter and the lyricist of the national anthem was Beethoven and Mozart. And then in 2015, another member of the state organ also recognized the lack of understanding of the national anthem among youths, and the draft proposal was then floated for the national anthem law to be enacted. I'd like to remind Dr. Priscilla Law that she cited the wrong reason for enacting national anthem law in Hong Kong. Mr. Ray Chan has moved some amendments relating to the national anthem, and in one of the amendments, he proposes to add the biography and the cause of death of the songwriter and the lyricist of the national anthem. Well, earlier, this was reported in the media, and there was a suggestion that the President should strike down this amendment for irrelevance to the bill. However, it is very relevant because many members already mentioned that the March of the Volunteers was actually the theme song of Children of Troubled Times in 1935. Tianhan, Nie in the eyes of the government at the time, were the opposition camp. So Tianhan composed the music in prison, and then Nie defected to Japan, defected to Japanese territory. He later died, and the March of the Volunteers was set as the provisional national anthem after the establishment of the PRC. We all know the tragedy of Tianhan. Subsequently, he was criticized in the Cultural Revolution. He was accused as a traitor. He had a tragic death. It's part of the history of China that we must not forget. Education should be comprehensive and multi-layered. And I think by adding this to the national anthem, we can help students understand better everything about the national anthem. Like I said just now, we should respect the national anthem, but in the course of scrutinizing the bill, we must also ensure that the freedom and rights of individuals should not be undermined. This is also upholding the spirit of one country, two systems. One controversy of national anthem bill is the definition of insult in clause 7. Mr. Ray Chan, Mr. Kenneth Leung, Mr. Wu Shiwai have moved 5 amendments relating to insulting behavior. According to the bill, the act of insult includes undermining the dignity of the national anthem, which is a symbol and sign of People's Republic of China. Still, it is rather ambiguous. At the Bills Committee, I asked for some examples. For example, there were 4 versions of the national anthem, including the theme song for children of troubled times, the song adopted during Cultural Revolution, and the song used when Hua Guofeng was chairman. So if an alternative version is used, would it be regarded as altered lyrics on an altered score of the national anthem? What if somebody thinks we should keep up with the times and then composed another score for the national anthem and altered the lyrics and asked for endorsement by the NPCSC? Would it be regarded as an insult? According to the reply, we need to have regard to the actual circumstances. However, if there is uncertainty and ambiguity in the legislation, will it lead to inconsistency in enforcement action? Chairman, I'm from the education sector. Of course, I'm concerned about the impact of the National Anthem Bill on schools. Clause 9 provides that the Secretary for Education must give directions for inclusion of the national anthem in primary and secondary education to enable students to learn, to sing, and to understand the history and spirit of the national anthem. I'm concerned about the definition of directions and its actual effect in Clause 9. Because when it comes to giving directions and providing implementation details of or instructions, usually the Permanent Secretary for Education would do so by way of circular, not giving directions as set out in the bill. So I spent some time to clarify this point with the administration. Although the administration orally promised that directions would be given by way of notice to all schools in Hong Kong, there is still a concern whether on actual implementation there will be a departure from the original intention. Clause 7 of the bill provides that a person commits an offense if, with intent to insult the national anthem, the person publicly intentionally do so and so. So I'm concerned, say, in a school, if there is an allegation of an insulting act on the national anthem, how should educators deal with the matter? According to the administration, the school management should adopt the principle of autonomy in dealing with such an insult of the national anthem. In other words, schools can decide whether to call the police or handle the matter on its own. However, the answer is vague. Well, usually, when there is harm to personal safety or property, food poisoning incidents, etc., the police would be called. However, For insult of the national anthem, it does not affect any person's safety or property, and it also involves the mental elements intentionally. So it's questionable whether schools can make the judgment themselves. And also, by publicly, it means that any occasion on which other persons can observe the act. So say during a morning assembly in a playground in the school, it will also be regarded as public. So can schools still have the autonomy over this matter? And if police are called for investigation, would it cause unnecessary disturbance to the campus? I need to emphasize that no matter the direction given to schools, it will have a far-reaching impact on schools, because the direction can also mean interference with teaching. According to the administration, directions will only be given after passage of the bill, or the directions will be drawn up after passage of the bill. I hope the Education Bureau can respond to the concerns I just raised and provide concrete examples of directions in writing. In fact, there are different occasions related to schools on which the national anthem is played and sung. And there are stipulations in the relevant papers provided by the Curriculum Development Council, not by the law. Similarly, for the national flag and national anthem emblem ordinance, since its enactment in 1997, there has not been any specific stipulation for schools to observe. We don't think it is necessary to include the education element in the bill. In May, I conducted a survey to gauge the views of my constituents in relation to the National Anthem Bill and other important matters. As usual, I would conduct a survey to gauge their views. Many teachers have doubts about legislation, this piece of legislation. In fact, 70% of teachers are concerned that they will be inadvertently caught by the law after its passage. Only 22% out of the 2,700 respondents supported the bill, whereas there was a 73% objection. So the views are very clear. I think everything hinges on social sentiment at the moment. And the social sentiment prevailing at the moment is that we do not have confidence in the law enforcement agencies. I think this is one of the biggest reasons why we are speaking against this bill. Of course, under normal circumstances, we should respect the national anthem. And I think this is something we all concur. It is easily understandable why we should respect the national anthem. But then we have such a wide divide in society. Any act involving politics and ideology on the part of the government will attract attention, and also questions from the public, especially when punishment penalties are involved. So the crux of the matter is that we should tackle the problem at source. We should deal with core problems such as abuse of power and indiscriminate prosecution, so that we can, the government can enjoy popularity. Carrie Lam yesterday asked whether we now have rule of law or rule of fear. Indeed, we are concerned about rule of fear. That is, the administration practicing scaremongering because of by way of legislation, including prohibition of group gathering. This will be another form of control under the current epidemic, and that we won't be free in expressing our views anymore. These are issues that we should face squarely.